Live means it's recording, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Recording.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I haven't done this in a while, so. Okay. So imagine you are Merton and it's time for your 9 a.m. meeting with Tevins and Harris. What position would you advocate? Anything?
What was the question?
So imagine that you are Merton and it's time for your 9 a.m. meeting with Tevins and Harris. Would you advocate in that meeting?
I would probably say that some sort of reprimand definitely needs to happen, but I don't know if firing that supervisor would help any of the safety problems going on within the company.
I don't think firing him is the answer. I think there's enough evidence that tells us that the guy had repeated violations, or that they were, especially that they were documented correctly. If we did, we might look at things differently. But just because somebody says he's done this over and over again, you can't not, unless it's documented. So information.
Yeah,
Easy way out.
I agree. I think more information is needed, and I think the guy that wants to fire him, it seems like it's kind of a decision based on emotions. We kind of learned about that. Yeah, we learned about that this week, right? With the emotional intelligence and trying to control those impulses to make good decisions.
So, Mindy, were you saying that you don't think he should be fired because of it? Or
what I'm saying is I don't think there's enough evidence to fire him because of it.
Yeah, it sounded like that.
I thought it said that it's happened 2 or 3 other times in the year. But
well,
no, it did say that, but we don't know if it was documented or if the guy is just saying, "Oh, this happens all the time."
Gotcha.
It's,
I see what you mean. Okay. So what did, I don't even know how you say his name, Sick actually do, and how serious was the offense? So I think what he did was still, like you said, we don't really have enough. I mean, it just seemed like he's a supervisor and he was asking one of his crew members to go do a job. There could have been precautions that could have happened. No, there wasn't really much to it, so I don't know. And I mean, I don't know how, so I don't even know what things they could have done to avoid these types of situations.
So was the problem that he was sent in to do a job? Was the problem that there was stuff on the floor for him to slip on? The area was congested? Or was the problem that the guy didn't have, some kind of more safety equipment on? I mean, any one of those things contributed to the accident. So, what was the problem, and where is blame going to be placed?
I agree. I think part of the problem too is that I feel like both of those workers knew that there were potential problems. That's why there's safety precautions. I think they both kind of ignored following the rules. Like the supervisor didn't follow the safety precautions before sending the electrician out down to the floor to fix the problem, and the electrician didn't say anything, went out to the floor to fix the problem and got hurt with the scrap that were on the floor and slipped and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, and also to go on along those lines as well is, like, it says that this is the third incident like this in the last year, but we don't know if he was ever reprimanded or if he had any disciplinary action against him on any of those previous times. Because if he just got kind of like, don't do it again, be more careful next time or whatever, that doesn't really do much for a supervisor. But if he actually had like disciplinary actions taken against him, or he was written up for it and he had those warnings after the incidents, then yes, at that point I would say he's ready to be fired if he's had multiple write-ups or, you know, whatever the company has in place for that.
Yeah, it did say that he's warned Ned several times, but he just hasn't gotten the message. So I don't know if he was being written up or whatever the situation was, if he was just getting a slap on the wrist or whatever, but
You've got to document it in order for it to, you know, for it to count, really, I think.
Yeah, for him to just say, oh, I've told him several times, that doesn't let us know if it was really, like, discussed properly, like, written up, here's what needs to be improved, how you can improve, please do better. Or if he just was like, hey, come on, we need you to do better. That's not going to be able to help the company prove the reason that they fired them if they don't have that documented as this is a continued problem.
Yeah, and I think that's the way you have to look at it in these cases when you're dealing with possibly terminating something. You have to look at it from the court's point of view, and that's just the state of mind you have to be in.
So I guess we kind of talked about this, but do you think it's all of, do you guys have a guess on what his name is?
Mr. S.
Okay, perfect. Do you think it's all of his fault?
No, absolutely not. I mean, yeah, he's got the overall, you know, responsibility, but, you know, also it depends on the programs that they have in place and where that falls. I mean, you know, was the custodian supposed to clean up? You know, was the workers supposed to go back, you know, and say, hey, you know what, this is going on, so, you know, I think I should do this later. I mean, where's the accountability there? You know, a supervisor can't be in all, you know, in all places at all times. So, but depending, you know, I mean, maybe that's where the buck stops, and maybe that's how they have it set up in their company. You know, that makes a difference too.
Mm-hmm. So what are the implications for workers, families, supervisors, and senior management if he is fired?
Pretty good if they've written them up properly. Pretty bad if they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree.
So what message would firing Mr. F send?
Well, it's kind of the tale of two stories. You know, if it was done properly, then it would send a positive message, I guess you could say. It would really kind of solidify the protocols and kind of strengthen them. But if it was done poorly, and then it could definitely send the wrong message. It could really affect morale, and so yeah, it could be one or the other.
Yeah, and like you guys have been saying, I think if it was done properly, as in they were doing write-ups and doing everything, I think by firing him, I think it would prove that they do not tolerate what is this? The safety violations. Just by firing him without any warnings or whatever, I think it might just seem like they don't know what they're doing and they're getting scared about the amount of issues that have been happening. might seem like they don't know what they're doing exactly.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, whether he was written up or not, and they fire him, I think the company itself also has to be careful about how they fire him, because it says in like the last paragraph of the memo that the guy's well liked by the people. So obviously his workers like him, people at the company like him, and so it does kind of create also a very like, you know, if they fire him and they take him the wrong way, then I can see employees, you know, being upset and, you know, morale dropping or whatever, because I've seen it in other companies where good people get fired. People don't know why, or it's just handled really badly. It happened at my husband's work a couple times this past year. And everybody's like, what happened? And like the morale just plummeted and people just started hating working there. So whether he was written up or not and he gets fired, it's also important how they fire him instead of just saying, you know, you're out or, you know, whatever.
That's a good point. So I had this planned out because I thought there was going to be 6 of us, but let's see.
This is the group part.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to everybody be talking all at once. I'd probably get real confusing.
We could just go over each of them together.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Okay, so compare exhibits 3 and 7 to answer the question. When safety improves, does productivity decrease? So it says to divide the total hours period by the work total for the same period.
So I did those calculations on Exhibit 3, and the hours continued to decrease except between the last period, between July and August of 1991. They went back up by 3 hours at the end there. So they've had like a steady decrease, like they've been making improvements for the most part.
But then at that last month is when you said it changed?
Yeah, it went from 31.97 hours to 34.02 hours per ton. So they were a little less productive this last month.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
then go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to understand it. So, because it says when safety improves, does productivity decrease? So, where does it show that the safety is improving? Is that just when the numbers change, or?
So, yeah, I don't know if it's more safe. It just said the smaller the number, the more productive the plant. And so that number got smaller hours-wise. So they were more productive per hour.
Okay.
And then and then the injuries in Exhibit 7, they went down except between January, not the last period, but the period before that. They kind of continued to decrease as well. So I don't know if the productiveness also made it more safe.
Yeah, it went up a little bit between September and June 1991, but steadily went down by a fair bit.
Yeah.
Number of injuries per 200,000 hours worked.
So is that in all, or is that for each?
Total.
For each. Okay, the total.
Yeah, fabrication actually went up. Ingot actually went up slightly. Pretty much held steady, but it went up a little bit. And smelting went way down. Ingot held steady. Rolling had a significant decrease. Fabrication went up.
Smelting went down a lot, and they're still the highest.
Yeah, but that was what was decided was the most dangerous spot in the plant,
Oh, yeah.
too.
Mhm. And it seems like fabrication really is the only one that got worse throughout the whole period.
It didn't, well, yeah, it got significantly worse, I guess.
It was still probably considered the least dangerous, but the trend is the worst for fabrication.
Yeah.
Paying more attention to others.
Mhm.
Maybe.
I guess we kind of did the second part of that. Okay, so we can move on to the group 2 then. So if you look at Exhibit 5, we need to figure out which injury numbers are improving, so going down, and which are going up.
Started at 320, went all the way down to 18, not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge change, I think.
Yeah, that seemed like a good, definitely a good trend. Like, definitely some of the things they were doing were working right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was looking, if you look at the one with the, I'm assuming that's the injury, but the one with the largest one in the end still is improper position. Is that like the workers are in a wrong position, like they're standing wrong, or is it like the equipment is in a wrong position?
Contributing conditions, contributing action.
Yeah, it could be
I would
both.
say the employee
Yeah.
not in the proper position.
Mhm.
Okay, because I kind of wondered if that was maybe what was happening with let's see, with, I'm just gonna call him Ned, I guess that's his first name. So I mean, did it seem like he was trying to repair stuff on loose material, and so I wonder if maybe he was just in a bad position. It could be, like you said, maybe the maintenance was supposed to clean up something, maybe there was a spill or whatever. But it seems like that's still one of the major issues. So categorize the types of injuries that are improving compared with the types that are not.
Seems like they all improved. I'm trying to see if there's any that haven't improved or trended the wrong way, but it seems like they've all improved.
Yeah, I only found a couple places where they went up briefly between 88 and 89, but then they continued to go down after that. So I thought they were all improving pretty well.
These injuries they have, though, if you look at Exhibit 6, and don't do it because it might not be part of this, but they're nasty. I sure don't want to work there.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you look at just the last two numbers on Exhibit 5, there's a few that increased. You know, congestion, used unsafely. There's a few, but
Yeah, but not much, and they've fallen so much.
Yeah.
not enough
It's
to.
hard to even pay attention to that.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting. I just kind of now realized it may be it doesn't seem like it's improved as much, because if you look at the last three entries, that's all just 1 year, whereas each
Oh,
number
yeah.
represents a year, and so you kind of have to combine
Oh.
the last three.
Oh, really good point.
Yeah.
Good point, Brandon. So they didn't fall as much as they should have, because that July, that's 1 month. August is
Yeah.
just 1
That's
month.
true.
And when you combine it
catch.
all, also, the total is only 8 months of the year,
Yep.
as opposed
That's
to what would
true.
be 12 months of the others. So yeah, good catch. Did not fall nearly as much as we thought it had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have better
But
luck
look at
looking at the
that different. Look at it. Well, I guess it doesn't really make August of 1951. August we're
Yeah.
so during the year towards the July and August. I mean, there was 151. I guess that wasn't all, but
Yeah,
I mean that was
a big jump.
112.
So some of them do have a jump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the standard procedure deviation was a pretty big jump there.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have anything else they wanted to add to that? So look at Exhibit 6. Go through the list of sample injuries and causes.
Quite a few burns. Like that one where the plunger went in the foot approximately 2 inches.
Yeah,
That sounds fun. I'm not laughing. I'm really not.
And the crazy thing was that was originally classified as first aid, and then the guy took it to medical to doctor for needing prescription drugs and therapy for more than 48 hours.
You would think that in a company like this, they would have an on-site medic or something.
Yeah.
You would know, Brandon. Do companies do that?
You know,
I would think so.
I mean, if they've got a fire station that's within 5 miles away, or they may not need to, but I'm sure they've got like a first aid area where they go. But I guess it just depends.
And honestly, seems like a lot of these could have been prevented if they'd had, heavy gloves on, or, burn right upper arm, some kind of protective gear. They would have been okay.
I think a lot of them go back to that improper position.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them seem to do with falling or slipping too.
Mm-hmm. Look at that anymore.
Well,
Nightmares.
quite a few of them were user errors.
User error.
What was that?
I think
User error.
Are the user error, especially the guy who's beating the top of the mixer with a crowbar.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why you're
call that an ID10T.
Yeah.
So are you
Sorry,
guys surprised?
Just surprised because I don't work in a field where
Okay,
lots of injuries happen. But
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something that's normally expected in a field like this.
I get the feeling that the type of work they're doing, that this is probably pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really dangerous place where anything can hurt you. And if you got, it seems like this kind of work is something that kind of stays in the family, I mean,
Yeah.
brothers, sisters, parents, they've worked there all their lives. So I'm sure there's a lot of complacency too. But
Yep.
I don't know. My guess is this is pretty normal.
Yeah, there was definitely a culture of like being tough and this is the norm, and rub some dirt on it
Right.
a little bit.
I was going to say something and I forgot. So group 1, the first one we did, should discover that as safety goes down, the number of hours to produce a ton also go down. It improves over the long run, productivity also improves. So I was asking, are you surprised about that? That as safety improves, productivity improves? Kind of an obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about too, because I think a lot of injuries are due to shortcuts that people try to do. There's a lot of procedures that take time, and so when they try to cut the corner is when they usually will get hurt, like not putting a glove on or not locking out and tacking out something. And so it's kind of interesting to think about that when you are following the rules. It does take a little more time, but productivity increases. And I'm not sure if I have the answer of why that is.
Maybe confidence increases. Could that be part of it?
I think confidence. But I also think that when you are doing what you're supposed to do, you're trying to be safe, you do take a slight bit more time, not a ton, but a really stupid example is, like, I think of quilting, because that's what I do, and if I'm rushing a job, it's not going to it's not going to look as good. Usually I break a needle or two, or my thread breaks, but when I actually take the precautions that I need to, and I prep everything, and I take my time and I focus on what I'm doing, the product is better, and I also have less complications.
So maybe they have a better focus then on what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense, because we have a lot of performance standards that we do, and they are timed. And when you get people who really try to rush it, they make more mistakes and it ends up taking more time. Whereas if you are methodical and you're kind of in a hurry, but you're also taking your time to make sure things are done right, in the long run, it usually gets done faster because less mistakes are made.
I was thinking. I'm just going to skip a couple of those. So it seems like we have a lot of questions on this one. So groups 2 and 3 should both notice that problems can be solved by spending money, have mostly been solved. Problems that can be solved by spending money have mostly been solved. I'm sorry, that doesn't really make sense. But in these areas, safety has increased. The problem Mission Valley still has is people. The common injuries include mistakes made by people. So which type of problem do you think is easiest to solve? Or the ones that involve people's behavior, and why?
Training, you just have to do constant training.
And I think, again, it goes back to that culture, that attitude of the workers. They've been doing this for 20 years. Their parents did this. Their brothers did that. They know what they're doing. So sometimes they seem to ignore the safety precautions that were in place. And the company already spent $4 million on research and updating safety equipment and, the railings and and the gates and whatever. So I think it comes back down to the people now are making the error. They're choosing to ignore the rules, or they're having the errors where they fall and slip and etc. So I think it's harder to solve the people behavior problems.
Yeah, I think I really agree with that. I think that probably most of the rules, if not all the rules that are needed to keep people safe, are probably already in place. It's like politics.
Sorry, I missed everything you said.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I missed everything that Mindy said.
Oh, I just said that I think that probably all of the necessary rules and guidelines and regulations to keep people safe are probably already in place.
Okay.
People just need to know what they are, and like Nikki was saying, follow them.
Right.
You gotta create a kind of environment where people are willing to change. Because like you said, like Nikki said, people have been there working for 20 years, and their father worked there before they were, and this is how they always did it. And so you have to somehow convince them that there's a better way and a safer way. And
probably changing the culture.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Let them know you can still be tough and follow safety procedures. I feel like we've kind of been talking about this, but what challenges are Mission Valley?
I think we
I
lost.
think we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Rachel, we didn't get any of that.
Yeah, you froze.
Oh, I was just saying, it's just, I mean, like you said, we already kind of talked about it, but it's like the culture, and just sure that all of the employees not only know the safety precautions, but they understand and they follow them. They have that mindset of been here a while, our family's been here, we know what we're doing, we're tough, we don't need to follow these rules. So I think that's just the biggest challenge, is getting perception on safety, I guess. And it's not that they probably don't, want to be safe, but they think that they know what they're doing and that it's not going to happen to them. But I'm sure, I mean, all those people that got hurt thought it wasn't going to happen to them, and it did. So. What has Mission Valley done in the past to improve its safety record so much that they have so few serious injuries compared with other similar companies?
I like the part where the CEO, he talked about how that was their number one focus. It wasn't production, it wasn't income statements or money, it was safety. And so that trickles down and has a positive effect.
I think so too, and I think if I was an employee with that skill set and I knew like Alcoa's records for safety, I'd prefer to work there over another aluminum company, just because I would feel like I'd have a lesser chance of getting injured on the job, because their safety numbers are so much lower than the industry average.
And I think it goes even more beyond that too. If their focus is on safety, it's that culture is they care about you, and so not just not getting hurt on the job, but they're want to help you succeed. As far as benefits and incentives and whatever the case, it seems like they put more value on their employees.
Yeah, I agree.
What are the challenges for the future? I feel like those are all very repetitive.
Yeah, I'd say
I think we've talked
finding
about
a
a lot
way
of
to
this.
change that attitude towards safety.
Mm-hmm. What would motivate workers to want to be safer? I would think it's
Yep.
seeing all the other injuries that are happening. I mean, there was just a death in the place. I mean, I feel like that's motivation enough, but clearly not.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you, Rachel, because like when they're giving examples of safety things that they're implementing or whatever, and then like employees are throwing fits or like this is stupid, like the ring, and they're like you can't wear rings anymore, and the lady like wrote the letter like I'm sorry,
yeah.
but knowing that a lot of injuries happen due to rings, I would rather
wouldn't want
not
to.
wear a ring for like 8 hours. I
Mhm.
think my husband would understand than
Right.
have potential my finger getting chopped off or whatever. So.
If just hearing something about the ring, I wouldn't wear my ring even if they told us that rings weren't allowed. Like for me, I wouldn't need my boss to tell me I can't do that anymore to want to do that or to not want to wear it anymore. So I think it's crazy the things that people will complain about.
So maybe the employees themselves also don't place safety as a top priority.
Mm-hmm.
Over wearing the ring. They'd rather wear the ring than have a lesser risk of losing a finger.
I don't know.
Well, maybe awareness hasn't been a big topic. Maybe they haven't.
Yeah, maybe.
But I also think that maybe the company needs to be harsher on their
Maybe.
safety rules, and like if we see you, even not doing, not wearing that glove that you're supposed to be wearing or whatever, they get written up. Like maybe, I think that there does come a time where you can't let the employees dictate what they're going to do, especially in an environment that is, so dangerous anyway, that maybe the company needs to be more strict on their policies and disciplinary.
Yep.
I think something you could try to do too to motivate and to actually change the culture is maybe involve the workers in some of the safety procedures. Like if you recognize a problem, instead of the HR department coming up with these procedures, maybe draw in some of these people and ask them to come up with solutions.
That's a good idea.
If they're involved in the process, maybe there's more buy-in that way.
All right, guys, I'm checking out some of the notes that we're talking about. So what can we learn from the incidents with the forklift speed limit and the wedding ring?
Well, if his number one priority is safety, that's got to get down to the lowest level. Because if guys are worried that they can't go fast enough on the forklift, or if people are worried about not wearing their rings, then safety obviously isn't number one priority. So we've got to get that to the lowest levels. But that's the number one priority.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing is that it just kind of shows how not necessarily easy, but there's ways to improve safety. Like I wouldn't even think to change the speed limit on the forklift, or I guess the situation of the wedding ring, if that's what's causing the problem, that one's kind of an easy thing. But I mean, there's so many little things that we can do to prevent all these major incidents from happening. Okay. Do you guys always wear seatbelts?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do you encourage others to wear seatbelts when they get in your car as well?
Yep. I won't drive unless they put on their seatbelt.
That's good. Do you avoid texting in dangerous places?
Yes.
Yep, I do.
You cross at crosswalks?
No. Mm-mm.
No. Okay, I always jaywalked when I was younger, and I hate when people jaywalk here. In fact, I'm sure it's illegal everywhere, but it's really bad in Rexburg. I think it's like $75 if you're caught jaywalking, but I never realized how annoying and dangerous it was until I moved to Rexburg, and people just, 5 feet away from the crosswalk, just walk out right in front of your car. It drives me crazy, and I get so close to hitting someone. It's so stressful, but do you use a ladder instead of a chair?
No.
No. But that's just because we don't own a ladder.
This chair is stable enough. It's good. Have someone hold the back of
The
it, right?
swivel chairs at work are a little iffy, but
Yeah.
grab onto
If
the
someone's
edge of the
holding on to
cubicle, it's okay.
Yeah. Do you drive the speed limit?
Yes.
No, you don't want to hear from Brandon on this. No, he gave his speech in our communications class and it went to my heart. It really did, but I did not change it. But it did go to my heart.
Are you a speeder? Is that what you're saying, Mindy?
I have a really, really good driving record. Like I have one moving violation in my whole entire life. I have one moving violation. I have a very, very good driving record.
That didn't answer the
That
question.
didn't answer the question.
I have a plan. It works. Yeah, no. Yeah.
So
Uh-oh.
Is she frozen again?
She's frozen for me.
what we can
Here she comes back.
What was that? Did you hear me? Sorry.
You froze
we did.
again.
Well, it just says to ask you guys that, and then it says if not, why? What would get them to change their behavior? So I was saying, even though I don't know what Brandon's speech was, but it touched your heart, but it didn't change your behavior. What do you think would be something that would change your behavior?
What would change my behavior?
Yeah.
I'm dying.
What's happening to her?
You can't
Sorry.
even drive anymore.
When I was in high school and I took the driver's ed course, my teacher had a fireman and a policeman come in and give a presentation, and they did not hold back on the videos and the gory details and images of what happened when accidents were caused by speeding or by not paying attention, and it scared the whole class straight for at least a little while, if not permanently. So seeing the details of what they have to deal with when people speed or cause accidents was definitely gave me some awareness.
Yep, it's all true.
See, when I took driver's ed, and my dad, they always told me that you should always go 5 miles more than the speed limit. So if the speed limit is 35, you should be going 40. So I was always taught to speed, but I think it's also, you could just kind of have to like figure out, your surroundings. I mean, if there's a bunch of cars around, I'm going to go 35. I'm not going to try.
Yeah. You have to use wisdom. Don't drive faster than you have strength.
Traffic. Like, you just got to know your surroundings and know the situation. So, okay. So, did you guys read about Linda's plan for 1992?
Yes, I personally think it's weak. Maybe you guys think there's more to it, but to me it just sounds like kind of a little vague and seriously kind of, I thought it sounded vague, and I thought it sounded weak.
I agree.
But maybe that's
I agree too.
that.
You sound so surprised, Mindy, like we never agree with you.
being overly critical. So
I don't know, with the CEO's main priority being safety, I feel like the plan should be more in depth and more focused.
yeah, more specific.
Well, I thought the changing the forklift so that they couldn't go over 4 miles an hour was kind of a cool idea.
But wasn't
That
that
was-
already implemented?
Yeah, that's what I'm confused
Yeah.
about. Was this a separate? Was that a separate attachment?
Yeah, Exhibit
it was at
11
the
is
end. It
her-
was.
Okay, I
It's her
didn't.
plan
Yeah.
for it.
It just didn't seem to really have much action in it at all, you know? It
Yeah.
just seemed to be milquetoast, you know? You guys don't know that expression, it's okay.
Did you say milk toast?
Sorry, I knew you guys would know what that means. Sorry.
Okay.
So if you think the list is pretty weak, what is something that we could add to the list? What's something that's missing?
You need to have like plan in this area, you know, 1, 2, 3, you know, in as far as this line goes, you know, these are the top things, or you know, this person is in charge for this day, or this, you know, just specific assignments or whatever. Anything more specific.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems kind of vague too. I just reviewed it right now. And maybe this is just a really brief overview. Maybe there's a lot more to it. Like maybe the number 2, the training is really intense, and you know I think number 6 is a really good thing because that kind of makes it a fluid process. Like they get a chance to review every month and change things or improve things, or so I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and going back to what Mindy said earlier too, it seems like the safety features are in place. They're all there. It's the culture that needs to change.
Hmm.
So where in her list does it address the culture? You know, instead of just adding new rules.
Thanks, Mindy.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll bring you guys up to date on that, okay?
That's funny.
And who thought you couldn't learn anything new tonight?
Let's see. Okay, so it says to brainstorm some ideas for how to change culture and attitudes about safety at Mission Valley.
You know what? We only have a couple minutes left, and we've got until our teacher's going to be on. And so, are you guys? I'm sorry to interrupt, but we kind of have to wrap it up.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the doohickey really fast, or did you want to just end it here?
What do we need to talk about?
Suggestions, like everyone else thought.
I wouldn't mind discussing my part really quick just to get a little bit of feedback. I'm doing the introduction, and Mindy, what I did is I looked at your introduction, and yours kind of really sets the stage for not just the first report, but for the whole thing. And so I'm trying to think of, you know, and I typed just a really small, I mean, I've got like 2 or 3 paragraphs for the introduction for this one. I guess I don't see how I could, it's not going to have as much as you had, is what I'm trying to say. And is there any kind of feedback that anyone can give me, that the information that should be in the introduction? Because all I did was a quick summary of what we did last time and what we're going to do this go around, and that's it. It's like 2 short paragraphs.
I would have thought that would have been about right, is to sum up the last one and bring on this one. I think that's about right.
Okay. All right.
Does anybody have any suggestions for the safety?
Supposed to come up with that issue, but you're supposed to come up with so you're going
Right,
to
the
write
4
about
solutions.
what's wrong with it, and then 4 solutions, right?
Yeah.
So you want some help with the 4 solutions.
Yeah, just any suggestions.
I would say an incentive plan would be good. You know, counting your safety days and you know, company-wide rewards when you reach a certain number of days. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
That's a
I
good one.
agree.
And what do you think about establishing a formal, what do you want to say? Writing people up, progression of reprimands, or there's a better word for that. Maybe that would be another solution.
Yeah, like
Put,
a step
Mhm.
discipline.
yeah, disciplinary steps.
You know,
Yeah,
we call it disciplinary ladder.
Mm-hmm.
there you go.
Yeah.
Some spot checks too. I think like at the company we just read about, they had spot checks, and on one of the spot checks they found 7 errors, even though people had been observing other workers. The spot check guy found 7 errors just from his time observing. So maybe spot checks that are random will help find things that are happening and be able to get a solution out quicker.
It's a great idea. What do you think about placards or whatever in different areas saying, you know, hard hat required, boots
Signs,
required, gloves required, you know, whatever it is in that area, that with that type of thing,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, that's a good one. Equipment and signs and
Mm-hmm.
Visual
designated areas.
Would you?
Discipline.
Oh, what were you gonna say, Brandon?
Oh, I was just going to say something that we do on any kind of a larger incident is we have a specific role that a person will have, and we designate someone as the safety officer. And so I don't know if there's something you can do where the supervisors, it's part of their job is to kind of be a safety officer. I mean, they're
Mhm.
not just there to make sure that everything's going well and that people are doing their job, but they're also, you know, they're there to make sure that people are being safe. Maybe there's some more emphasis on them. They're like, hey, you're a safety officer. This is part of your job. You're supposed to be looking out at your employees to not only make sure that they're doing the job the right way, but also, you know, that they're not being
Mhm.
unsafe.
You could also, on that same note, maybe institute kind of a, I don't even know if this is a good idea, but like a buddy system, you know, like, you know, someone
Oh,
else
yeah.
is on your line that you're responsible for this, you know, and that could switch up every so often of your buddy or whatever is following whatever.
Check
I don't
in
know.
on them.
Yeah, so maybe like you're pretty much never doing a procedure or doing something alone.
Yes, exactly.
Just so you guys know, Brother Cochrane's already started.
Okay.
The well,
All right.
Okay, I'm lead next week, and so I'll do that next week.
Sounds good.
okay.
And yeah, we will
Yeah.
email our stuff to you by tomorrow.
Yep.
Please.
Candy?
Yeah. this
I will
could
try my
take a long
hardest.
time,
Okay.
so. All righty. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
May the